Thank you for coming out this evening for a special Mad Monster 35th anniversary screening of the original Friday the 13th. If you will please give a big round of applause for the composer of the original Friday the 13th, as well as 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10. Please give a big welcome to Harry Manfredini. Thank you for joining us this evening, Harry. And hard to believe it's been 35 years now since this movie first came out May 9th, 1980. Now, before you became involved with Friday the 13th, you had already previously worked with Sean Cunningham and Steve Miner and Victor Miller on 2 previous movies, correct?
Yes.
And so, can you talk a little bit about working with them on, and then what led into Friday the 13th?
Well, actually, I had worked with Sean more than anyone. Steve was an editor at the time. Steve was one of the editors. We did a couple of children's films that were complete disasters. One was called Here Come the Tigers. It was basically the Bad News Bears with tigers. And then there was another one that was going to be huge called Manny's Orphans, which was about soccer. It was basically Here Come the Tigers about soccer. And if you look really close, I have about a 6-second cameo in that, in which I was my first actual act. There were talk of Oscars and stuff, but I did a 6-second talking head. That was terrible. Anyway, but I was just at Sean's house one day. I mean, we were just trying to put food on the table, and Sean said, "Oh, I'm doing a horror picture next, and you're going to write the score, and it's going to be the scariest movie ever." And I said, "Okay, fine." And off we went. I had not met Victor until subsequently when I actually finished the score. We had dinner on 10th Avenue. Steve, was an editor, and I just got to know Steve. But I'm not sure if he was the main editor on the first picture. But we had worked together, and we were just all trying to, make a living, put food on the table. We all know what that's like, right? So here we are.
So, at what stage do you typically come on board a production, and tell us a little bit about the work that you have to plan out and map out? Do you have access to the script ahead of time that you begin processing in your mind what possibly could work, and then go into actually seeing the visuals, or how does that all work?
With horror pictures, I tend not to want to read the script. I tend not to want to see the dailies. I tend not to want to know anything. I want to see the picture at least in a fairly good rough cut. With Friday the 13th, I didn't read the script, thank God, because I would have, are you out of your mind? But I want to see the picture straight through the first time, just like a couple of you, these 2 people, a lady up there, a girl over there, are going to see it for the first time. Because you only get to see a movie the first time once. And I want to get the visceral reaction to the picture. I want to see where the real scares are. I want to see what my job is going to be to scare the pants off of everybody, to try to get you to relax so I know something's going to happen. So I want to get that one feeling. I can see the overall arc of the picture. I want to see what it's really going to take, what this picture really needs musically. If I already know what's going to happen, and somebody jumps out of a closet and stabs somebody, I can't get that feeling of the person jumping out of the closet because I already know it's going to happen. So you only get one shot at it the first time. So with horror pictures especially, I only like to see the actual picture. I come on at the very end. There wasn't any music in it when I saw it, which it's hysterically funny with no music.
Now, how different was that for early rough cut that you first saw compared to the final cut of the movie?
It was practically the same. There was very, very, very little changes. Subsequent versions of Friday got edited a lot more thanks to the MPAA and things like that. But for the most part, the picture was exactly the way I saw it.
So talk a little bit about your collaboration process with on the first movie, Sean Cunningham as director. How much freedom does he give you to create the musical world that you want to create? How much input, how much day-to-day impact does he have on that process?
Day to day, very little. We've already done 2 pictures that he trusted me, and he still trusts me, and we basically, you know, our contracts are like, you do the music and that's good. All right, so it's like that. He's very, very trusting with what I'm going to come up with. On occasion, I remember a couple of times where in a completely different movie where I had written something and he went, oh, you went, ah, and I wanted you to go, oh, and I went, oh. So then I changed my to oh, and then he was happy. But sometimes but for the most part, he trusts me. As far as the collaboration goes, after I saw the picture, I realized we had one real problem with the picture, and it was a dramatic problem. I'm going to go off for a while. Okay. One of the most important things of being a film composer is that you're really a dramatist. You're really dealing with the story and with the drama. Sometimes I'm way more dramatist than I am composer. Sometimes just one note works, you know, but I don't have to write some fugue or some crazy thing that I learned in school. I would just one note. Ooh, that's making it happen. So one of the problems is dramatically in this picture, and I'm about to give you the ones who haven't seen the movie, cover your ears and eyes. One of the problems in the movie is that you don't know who the killer is. This is really a murder mystery, isn't it? In a way, when you really get down to it, it's a murder mystery, and you don't know who the killer is. Although, very often, from very beginning of the picture, there's a POV of the killer, like you become the killer. The cameraman becomes the killer. So my job was to try to find out, how can I get the killer in reel 1 if we don't see the killer until reel 9? I mean, how does the audience know it's not the cameraman? Understand what I'm saying? So my job, that was the first thing I had, my first problem dramatically. And I said to Sean, I said, my first idea is that we should only have music for the killer. And if you watch this movie, those of you who've seen it a bazillion times, you're going to have an enjoyable trip, because I'm going to tell you a few things. There's actually very little music in this film. The other thing is that be very aware of how the music goes out and how the music comes back in. There's a million places in this film, when you watch it, you go like, if this were any other film, there would have been music. But we decided, no, only for the killer. So that's one thing. I mean, I'll give you 2 examples, and and you won't have to worry, you don't have to cover your ears. Early on in the movie, Steve Christie is bare-chested, manly guy, and Adrienne King is up there, I think, hammering am I right? Hammering on the gutter. Thank you. And she shows him a picture, and they talk about it, and he goes, is this the way I look? And she goes, that's the way you looked last night. And there's a moment where you feel like there might have been something going on between the 2 of them. And he walks by her and just touches her face with his hand, doesn't he? Yep. Any other film, there would have been like a little, kind of cue, a music cue. But no, there's no music. There's no music for that. Later on in the picture, they're setting up the archery part of the camp. And the goofy, wacky guy decides to shoot an arrow into the bullseye while the girl is setting up the what do I call it? The bullseye. Anyway, again, there would have been a sting the size of Pittsburgh in every other film. I mean, it would have been like, bam, oh my God, it's an arrow, you know. There's no music there. Be really aware of how I take the music out and how I bring the music back. Watch it, because here's the trick, dramatically. how many of you, well, you're like all 13 years old, but you remember in the old carnival days when some guy would like hit, the manly guy would, you'd hit the thing with the hammer and the thing would go up and ding, and well, he's manly because he hit the bell, okay? What's it called? The high striker. Thank you, sir. Anyway, what's happening is this. In this film, you're sitting there and you're at a 7. You're at a 7. So if I scare you, the most I can get out of you is 3. Because you can't go higher than 10. Okay? So my job is to get you to come down from 7. To get you down to 3, and then wham, hit you at 7. I'll give you another place to watch. And this is where acting comes in. There's a scene where Adrian is, without giving anything away, Adrian is in a kitchen. And in her hand, I believe, is a baseball bat and like a fork for a turkey. What do they call them?
Carving fork.
A turkey fork. Okay, all right. She's standing there and she's scared. You know, she's been being chased and she's scared to heck. And all of a sudden she stops and she goes like this. She sighs. Watch the music go out with her sigh, because I want, for a moment there, she feels like, I'm okay. And I get the music out. And there's no music for a long time. Well, not for a long time, because I'm setting you up to get hit. Watch the music go in and out. It's really interesting. It's fun to do. And look, I still haven't given away who the murderer is. And let's go to the absolute last scene. And this is another brilliant thing that everybody did. We all know about the last scene, except for the 6 people who don't know about the last scene. That scene went on for so long that everyone gave up. And that was the trick. Was that everybody saw, did you ever see a movie called Carrie? Did you see that movie? Oh, good. Well, yeah. Carrie, yeah. It was a, I think it was one of those Bollywood films. Yeah. Carrie, anyway. And Carrie, you know, it was like, bam, Carrie. Okay. Well, what happens here is that everybody gave up. And the music was going on. And, oh, yeah, well, let's go. Okay, let's put our coat on. Let's go. And no, the people who saw Carrie go, no, something's going to happen. You know. And then, of course, finally the people who saw Carrie gave up. And everybody had given up because it just went on for so long. And, of course, then it happened, and that's when everybody goes, you know, everybody went crazy. Or at least 6 people here will go crazy. Anyway, so there was that. One of the fun problems about that was I was about to score that, and I'm going like, oh, this is great. I haven't written one melody in this entire film, and now I have to write a melody. So I wrote this country western song that plays in the bar, not in the bar, in the diner, Sail Away Tiny Sparrow, which was a rip-off of a Dolly Parton tune. It was somewhere in that Dolly Parton tune it said, fly away little bluebird, and I went, little bluebird, sparrow, sail away. All right, anyway, so I wrote this song. It was the only melody I actually wrote. So if you listen really closely, the music that's playing in the boat, where she's in the boat by herself, well, I said to myself, she's in a boat, she's sailing away, everything's cool. So I just took the melody from the diner and played it a little bit slower and flanged it and stuff. Okay, I'm done talking.
Speaking of that song, though, there was that great box set from La La Land that came out a couple years ago, and one of the things about it, the pitch seems a little bit different on the box set compared to how it is in the movie. Was that was that you? Are you aware? Was that a conscious choice? Or?
I have no idea why the pitch changed. My only guess is that La La Land did a reprocessing of every piece. What happens in film, especially this is a movie that's 30 years old, 35 years old? Yeah, I wrote it when I was 10. And it was 35 years ago. This is on a piece of mag tape. Lord knows what happened to this tape. it got transferred again, and then it got transferred again. And then things changed. And what happened was, when it got to be processed probably by La La Land, they said, you know, it's kind of slow, isn't it? You know, so all at once they kicked it up a little higher. The pitch changes. Suddenly it doesn't sound like it sounds like a girl singing, and there was a boy singing, and it's not the same key and everything like that. So it's just something that happened. It's still the same song. There was something else I wanted to say. Nobody actually asked me why.
Yeah, I wanted to go ahead and step in there since you just mentioned. But so you've told this story many, many times, and I'm sure you'll tell it many, many more times to come.
Back to making drama and making the killer known in reel one, even though the killer isn't, we never see the killer. But we have to know it's the killer. Without giving anything away, at the end of the movie, there's a close-up of the killer. And there's a close-up where someone, the voice of the son is saying, "Killer, mommy." So I said, oh, this killer hears voices. So I took K-I of, those are people who I signed their thing. I wrote K-I-M-A. That's actually me. So I get a nickel every time that happens. It's great. Anyway, but I just owe myself a nickel. Anyway, so what I did was, every time it was the POV of the killer, boom, I dropped that in there, and everybody knows that's the killer, not just the cameraman. So it was a dramatic thing, and that was the choice. I could go on with more explanation of how I came up with it, but that's it.
Now, of course, after the success of the movie being released, a year later, we have part 2, a year after that, part 3, and so on. How is it, working on something where you go basically back to back to back over the course of 6 years? How much time do you have to work on each additional sequel, but also any other projects come along? How encompassing, and how much of that time does that take up?
It does take up as much time as you think. The trick with Friday is that, I don't know how many musicians we have. How many people actually know music here? All right, pretty good. Okay. In Friday the 13th, there really only are 2 chords, 2 sonorities. Everything in that film comes off of almost 1 chord. It's an A flat, C, E natural, F sharp, and B natural. It's, for those of you who know, it's kind of like an A flat augmented 7th with the minor 3rd up on top. It's not that chord, but it's that sonority. That's really the sound of Friday the 13th. So that every time you do a subsequent one, and right now I'm writing, the game of 3 hours of game music, all of it really comes off of that one piece of information. So it's not like, oh, I got to come up with new stuff. Well, yeah, every movie had new stuff. But generally speaking, the material came off that one sonority. Look, see, I'm even playing it right now. So, anyway, so there's that. The other thing that was cool was that I'm a gear guy. I love gear and stuff. And it seemed like every year I would buy a new piece of gear. I would either get a new synth or some new samples or something, whatever it happened to be. So whenever they came up with a new Friday, I would go like, oh wow, I can use this, Like in part 2, I found this really cool chord synth, which, it's primitive now. I mean, the stuff in this movie is hysterically primitive. I mean, there's only 13 people playing. I'm the 13th one. I plucked the piano, I played the tin whistle, I did all the percussion, and stuff like that. Really funny story, okay? The first time we did the session, I came into the studio and he was, what are we doing today? I said, okay, well, I'm going to do the percussion and I'm going to do the piano. So, okay, so I come in the morning and he goes, okay, well, we're going to do the piano. I said, okay, great. So I said, okay, well, we'll start the first piece. So I reach inside the piano and I push the pedal down and I grab a whole bunch of strings and I go, like that. Then there's another place where I took a mallet from like a drummer, like a timpani player would play, and I start hitting the string, like that inside the piano. And the engineers in the studio just laughing his butt off. And I'm going like, what's so funny? He says, I just paid $600 to get that piano tuned. And you're not even playing it. Anyway, that was pretty funny. At least it was funny to me. Where were we? We were doing, yeah, so basically that's the way, almost every reincarnation of the film was generated, A, by a new piece of gear and that same chord.
Now, of course, with your schedule being as busy as what you've done, over 100 films now, correct, that you've composed, and there are periods where you're in really high demand, and one of those times was during the production of 7 and 8, correct?
Yes.
And so you weren't available to do it. What was it like, having something that's been a part of your life for so long, sort of, I guess, passing it off to someone else to do it, but eventually you would come back?
I didn't think much about it at the time. I was doing Deep Star 6, which is a really good score. It's a huge score, 70-piece orchestra, and it was pretty complicated, and it was really fun. And that picture, believe it or not, that picture, I believe it's Jason Manhattan. Which one's that? Yeah, it was one of those. I think it was Jason Takes Manhattan. I was doing Deep Star 6 at the same time, but not only that, but I was offered Nightmare on Elm Street 7. I only do movies with numbers in them. I don't do any. Anyway, Deep Star 6, I really 7, and anyway, I couldn't do that one either. So it was. I don't work with other people. I'm not there's a lot of composers who will hire, 25 other guys and have them write. I don't want to do that. It's a little too personal for me, and I don't know. Whenever I've had somebody write something, I go, it's sort of okay, but then I'll fiddle around with it. Anyway, bye.
For you, going back to the first movie very briefly, and I'm going to go open up to you guys in just a second here. I just have 2 more questions. For you personally, is there a piece of music from the original film that is the most rewarding for you?
Okay, I'll pick 2. 2 because 2 of them. One is actually, believe it or not, the song from the diner, the Sail Away. You go like, it was something I just tossed off in a couple hours because I needed to get a country western song for the diner. But what's really funny about that is that song led to a Broadway musical. I had a Broadway musical for 2 weeks and 1 day on Broadway called Play Me a Country Song. And that song came from Friday the 13th and actually went into a musical. So I got a whole lot out of that one too. I liked the ending, which I thought really worked really well dramatically. But actually the opening credits, which were playing before, it was a place where I literally got, it was sort of an overture. It literally had everything that was going to happen musically in the film, all in a minute and a half while the names were flying by.
So this is, going in now, 35th anniversary. This is actually becoming a sort of a big time again for Friday the 13th because you got a couple big things that are in the pipeline with the game, which, as my understanding tonight, is right before this Q&A began, 9 o'clock when their funding went through on that. Oh, wow. $822,000, so that's pretty incredible. Wow. Yeah. But you also potentially, there's the Friday the 13th show that's coming for CW next year, and then they pushed it back to 2017, but there's a new movie. Beyond the game, is there potentially any possibility you could at some point be involved with either of the other 2 productions?
No, I don't know. The movie, I don't know. I am. Don't even get me started on the other movies. I tried desperately to watch the last Friday the 13th, and I've watched like 3 disparate minutes 3 times. I tried to watch it, and I just went, what the hell is this? And I didn't get it. I didn't get it. Freddy versus Jason. I read a script to that 2 years before they actually made the movie. It was the best script, and what they ended up making was not anywhere near what that first script was, and they just didn't do it. It was actually written by one of the guys who was involved with Titanic, so you can imagine it was a really clever script. Where was I? Oh, the TV series. I don't know. Maybe I would like to do that. That would be fun. I've only done one complete series of TV, which was War of the Worlds back in the '90s. You like that? Wow, that was a cool. That was a fun experience. This is back in the days of tape. They would send me the show on Monday, and then I would write it. I'd write the whole score by Friday, and then I'd run over to Paramount, give them the music, and then on Sunday it was on TV, and then on Monday they'd send me the next show, and it was like 13 weeks of my life. I never saw anything except the room, but it was a lot of fun, and that was actually a fun show to do. So I don't know what's going to happen with the Friday thing. As far as the next movie, I have no idea. It's, don't get me going on that. I don't want to talk about it. I'm more excited about the game.
Woo! Now, really quickly too, we were talking a little bit about that before we started up down here. So, one of the things that I found really interesting, what you were saying about how it's basically, depending upon what the character does in the gameplay, that changes what the music's going to do and how the challenges that will be for you as a composer to create music that is non-narrative, I guess is.
Yeah, it's non-linear. I think that's what they call it. It's a non-linear multiplayer game, which for me poses a problem. For most games, like you're at level 3, okay, and you've got to kill 46 or whatever happens to come up, guys. And you've got a gun and you kill them. So the music just plays. It's the level 3 music. And then as soon as you make past level 3, then you get the level 4 and you got the level 4 music. In this case, it's a non-linear 7-player game. So that basically the score is created by you while you're playing the game, because you're going to make decisions. For example, you could be playing the game and you're walking through the woods or something, and you see a cabin. Okay, there's music playing while you're walking through the woods. Okay. And then you see a cabin. You have a choice. You could go to the cabin, or you could keep going in the woods. Or maybe you're going to find something in the woods. Maybe you're going to go to the cabin, open the door, and find out what's going on in there. Who knows? Jason might be in there, but you don't really know. So my job is not, I'm not writing a linear piece of music. What I'm writing is a gazillion modular pieces of music that no matter what your choice is, there'll be music for what you do. The next time you play the game, you may not want to go to the cabin. So you're going to go straight. So you'll have different music. And even if you do decide to go to the cabin, there's probably like 9 different going to the cabin pieces. So there's all sorts of different choices. And he may be playing the game simultaneously as another character. He will have a completely different score than you have. And you'll have a different score, and everyone will have a different score. And then the fun part is, he's playing Jason. And so he's going to have a score. And we were talking earlier, I says, I don't think, I've never really written the score point of view of Jason. So I'm going like, what does Jason hear? So anybody have any ideas? I'm looking for ideas. But anyway, so what oh, okay, that's a good idea. But anyway, so that's what I'm writing, is I'm writing just a gigantic modular musical crossword puzzle. That no matter what happens to, no matter who it is, no matter what choice you make, there will be something that goes with you.
All right, let's go ahead and open up the audience for a few minutes for some questions. So anyone have a question they'd like to ask? Right there in the corner, and then over here.
Me? Oh, okay. I just had a question in terms of writing or composing for a game versus composing for a film. Is the process similar, where the game has been created and then you compose pieces to go along with the 8 million different variants, or do you create it but synonymously as the game is being created?
That's a really good question, and it's a question I've had to answer for myself because I've never written a game before.
Right.
The problem is that in this, like I said, in this game, when you're ready for a film, just was the first question. I see the film. As soon as I see the film, I start hearing music. So I'm already putting the score together, and I start to even see a line. I almost see it, the whole line of the whole score. Oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, and then there's this. And I've got my bricks all ready to go to build the wall. In the game, especially in this game, because it's really still very much in the creative process. I mean, we have conversations every week where 9 new things. Oh, we could do this, or we could do that. I'm going, oh no, here's another hour of music, you know. Anyway, so no, it's completely different. And again, in a film, you write to sync. If I was to turn around and take out a knife and stab Levi, I would want to have the music go, you know, like line it up and then bam, okay. But I have no idea where the bam is going to happen in a game. So I have to write the bam as a separate thing. And then I have to write a that goes to the bam as a separate thing because the sync of the game is related to the way she plays the game or the way he plays the game. So that's the difference. And I get a headache even just talking about it. But thanks for the question. It's a good question.
I started out as a child writing just regular rock songs on guitar when I was 10 or 11. 20 years later, I started making classical music. I never would have saw that coming. When you were a kid and making music, even was it always this kind of music, or did you have another love and it evolved into this?
Here's this question. Did everybody hear this question? He's a composer. He started writing rock songs on guitar, and now he's writing classical and stuff like that. Okay, here's my life is this. My father loved Puccini and Italian opera, so I grew up listening to Italian opera. My brother listened to Stan Kenton, which is a progressive contemporary jazz for those of you. It's really cool music. And then I went to school and studied classical music really, really hard because I used to think Stan Kenton was the end of music until somebody started playing Stravinsky and Bartok and all that stuff, and I went, whoa, I got a lot of catching up to do. So I have all that. Here's my journey, okay? From the time I was 7, I wanted to score films. I had no idea how to do it, why I wanted to do it, how I was going to do it, but that's what I wanted to do. My parents gave me, I'm Italian, my parents gave me accordion lessons, of course, because you're Italian. You're born with an accordion, you know. So I took accordion lessons. But I had this dream, this is friggin' scary, okay? It's friggin' scary. I had this dream, and I'm not making this shit up, I'm telling you the truth. I used to dream in bed that I had a room, and I had a magic keyboard. And on this keyboard, the movie would be over my head on the wall. And I could make anything I wanted on this keyboard. It could be drums, it could be trumpets, it could be whatever I wanted it to be. I listened to movies with my mother when I was very young. I stayed up way too late for somebody in 2nd grade, but I was up till 1 o'clock watching, you know, the great films. I sit in a room where the picture is projected over my head with a keyboard where I can literally make any sound that I want. That's scary. And I'm telling you, I'm not just making this up. That's absolutely the truth. Okay? So that's been my experience. I'm a jazzer, basically. I played saxophone. I used to play accordion, so I have a good right hand. I have no idea what this hand is for. This one I can play like crazy. This one I go, root, 3rd, 5th, you know, that sort of stuff.
You have another question out there? One more? Anyone? Yep, right there.
Do you have a favorite composer? Like a
Oh my God, yes, I have a lot of favorite composers. We really don't have time for that, but,
just maybe one.
well, it reminds me of a question of like, what's on your iPod? You know?
Okay, yeah.
All right. If I told you what was on my iPod, I have John Adams, not the second president of the United States, but John Adams, the composer. I have Stravinsky. I have some Bartok. I have. There's a composer named Schwantner that I really like. There's a composer named George Crumb that I really like. But at the same time, I have what's the girl? Oh, the country western girl. Okay, I'll tell you the song. And I will fly away like a bluebird. Born to Fly is the name of the album. Anybody? Any country western fans? Anyway, I have country western songs. I have Pavarotti. I have the blind singer whose name doesn't come to me right now. Bocelli. I have Bocelli singing in Spanish. I have Bocelli. I have heavy metal. I really like Dream Theater. And anybody know Dream Theater? Yeah. Okay. Good. What's the other one? They're kind of like Dream Theater, but they're a little more mellow. Why do I hate being old?
Rush, Yes.
No, Yes is like, Dream Theater is kind of like Yes, but they're like Yes on drugs. This is a strange band. I want to say it's not. It'll come to me and I'll scream it out tonight.
Thank you.
Anyways, I am all over the place, and I listen for specific things. You asked me why I've got, the Sarah Evans album. It's one of the most beautifully engineered albums you're ever going to hear. I just love the mixing and the engineering on it. So I listen for that. The way instruments are placed, the way this is in a reverb that's not in a reverb, the way this is to the left, far back, this is to the right, up in front, so I listen for something completely different. It's like watching a movie. I don't know if you ever do this. How many people watch Peaky Blinders? Anybody watch Peaky Blinders? Is that like the killer show of all time? I'll watch a show that I've seen many times, but sometimes I'll watch it for something different, and I suggest you do that too. Watch like just the costumes, or watch the stuff going on in the background. Watch the camera. Just look at the camera angles. Peaky Blinders, you go crazy watching the camera on that. Anyway, what the hell am I doing here? I used to teach school. I feel like I have to grade you all now. Anyway. You're going to get a good grade. I tell you, you're smiling a lot.
Cool. Well, I want to thank you very much, Harry, for joining us out here this evening. And for all the information you shared with me. I also want to very quickly, there are two people that we reached out to about being here who were not able to make it out here tonight, but they helped contribute anyways. First of all, Victor Miller helped put me in touch with Harry to be out here. He wished he could have been out here this evening, but unfortunately he has a prior engagement. And also, you're about to see a short video introduction from Sean Cunningham. For about 30 seconds or so, but he was kind enough to go ahead and record a short intro for us.
Yay!
Go right ahead. So anyways, thank you for coming out this evening for our special screening of Friday the 13th.